use Vidalia or sweet onions the most. I like the flavor profile for a lot of the type of cooking that I tend to do, soups and things like that. So I'm slicing horizontally. We don't have long strings of fennel and onion in with our soup. If you keep the little nub bulb on the end of your onion, it can make it a little easier to hold on to when you're chopping. I'm just using one medium, roughly sized onion. We're gonna start with trimming off our stalks. We're gonna be using the bulb of the fennel for our actual soup. Fronds we're gonna use as kind of a herb finish. So a lot of people hear fennel, they think like anise or licorice, but fennel, when it's cooked, you really bring out just a subtle, sweet, savory flavor profile you get from it when you cook it is a lot different than if you just ate fresh fennel. Just cut it in half through the bulb. We're just gonna be doing thin slices. Cut it in half lengthwise. Right, you know what, I'm actually gonna chop this a little more. I think I want it even smaller. So we're gonna do another section. Fennel wasn't something I grew up with. I've only kind of recently realized what a delicious flavor it adds to lots of soups and things. I'm using about 4 stalks of celery. So these ratios are a little, what do you have on hand? What looks good that you want to use? Kind of with all soups, the rule of thumb is what looks good and would taste good. My stalks, I'm just going to be cutting them in half lengthwise and then thin slices. I want lots of little small bits in every soup bite. We got our celery halved and then cut into sliced rounds. I happen to have baby already peeled carrots on hand, so that's what we're using. You can really use whatever kind of carrot you have. I'm just having all my carrots and I'm going to do kind of half rounds. I'm gonna want about equal amounts of celery to carrot. I am going to get a little bit of fresh dill, and we're going to use some of that in our soup later. We'll add flavor into your soup as it sits in your bowl, but you can also use it as a pretty garnish if you were feeling fancy. Dill is an awesome, beautiful, fresh herb that is just so potent in flavor, and you can use it in a lot of good soups or sauces or dips, all kinds of things. I don't even mess around with parsley anymore, man. Dill is, I'm all about the dill. It's kind of a big dill. Okay. That's my bad pun of the day. All right, we're gonna move on to our chicken. We are using chicken breast today. You could use other cuts of chicken. You could have a whole chicken and break it down. If you wanted to make this into a vegan or vegetarian soup, a couple options. Cut out the chicken protein entirely and just have a beautiful vegetable soup. Or you could substitute it with whatever your favorite protein is. You could do like a firm tofu and cut it up into cubes and put it at the end. If you wanted to make it extremely filling, you could also do lentils. I'm just drying off my chicken here. It's been sitting out for a little bit. It's a little easier to cook your meat when it's room temp. And it's dried so that our dry rub will actually stick to it. We're gonna be doing our dry rub now. I did mix up my dry rub beforehand, but I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what I've got in it. You can really just use whatever your favorite dry rub is for this kind of thing. So mine has rosemary, sage, red pepper flakes, nutmeg, garlic powder, onion powder, dill seed, celery seed, oregano, seasoned salt, and ground black pepper. I measured nothing and just dumped it in until I was happy with it. Made a decent amount here. We're going to want to coat both sides of our chicken when we're cooking our onions and fennel. We're going to put the rest of it in there to kind of keep a theme of those flavors throughout. Start with our dry rub on this chicken. While I'm doing this dry rub, I might get the heat started on my pan. Put it on like about a medium heat, just so we can get a little bit of color. Get that browning, makes everything taste better. Get just a little bit more in these, and then I'm gonna pat it in, and then we're gonna flip them. And we'll coat this side. Pushing the dry rub in helps it stick to your meat and add that flavor. I like to do a mixture of olive oil and butter. Don't want to do too much butter in this because it has a pretty low smoke point, and you don't want to just burn it. Probably pat or two of butter. So I'm just going to start with this biggest guy here first. And I'm going to probably do about 3 to 5 minutes each side just to get a decent sear to it. Butter is popping a little, so I'm going to turn that heat down a bit. Probably been about long enough. There we go. I'm going to turn that heat down a little bit. I'm going to cover it. Letting it finish cooking the chicken internally. Like 160, 165. So I'm going to remove this chicken breast. I've got that set to the side. That is going to cool off. Now we're on to the next step here, which is going to be building our base. We're going to go back to our friend's olive oil and butter. Add some more oil. I'm not measuring, but about 2 tablespoons oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons butter to start with. Get that going. On a medium-low heat. There we go. nice and melted, heating up a little bit. First, we're gonna put in our onions. We're gonna add in our fennel. Give that a decent stir here. So mix in our dry rub. Probably equivalent of 1 to 2 tablespoons of dry rub if I had to estimate. We got our lemon here, so I'm gonna roll it around to help get more juice out. This is flexible, so it should have loosened up some of that juice. Next, we're gonna zest our lemon over our mixture. I usually just use my microplane for zesting. I'm gonna do the zest of 1 whole lemon. I've got my lemon here. You can just totally squeeze it over, but if you're worried about seeds, then you can either get a little juicer thing or you can squeeze it over something like this. I'm gonna do about 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey. You know, that's the kind of the importance of tasting at multiple points. If you notice that it's unbalanced, too bitter, too salty, you add whatever component balances that out. Honey is a good trick in a lot of things like this to help balance. We're gonna go until these are pretty much translucent. Our bouillon cubes are vegan and gluten-free. It's really hard to find gluten-free bouillon cubes. This isn't like promoted or anything. I'm just really excited about these. It's starting to look decently translucent, so I'm gonna add some of my other components. I wanted my onion and fennel really nice and cooked down to get, like I said, more of the sweetness from those elements. And now for a little bit of a different flavor profile, we're gonna add our other components we chopped up earlier. So we're gonna add in our garlic, our celery, and our carrots. We'll give this a stir. Make sure everything there is exposed to the heat. I'm gonna let it soften and cook those a little bit. So my hack for the shredded chicken is actually stand mixer. You don't want to turn it to mush, so you kind of do it a bunch and then in little pulses just to get it shredded enough. I put some of that liquid from the pan with it. You can cut these up, but you don't have to. I'm gonna pour just a little bit of that liquid in too. Carrots and celery are looking, and garlic are looking softened enough that I think I'm gonna start the next component real quick before I shred the chicken. Now we're going to add our water. So it's about 6 cups. It looks a bit loose right now, but it will cook down a little bit as we simmer it as well. We're still gonna add in some of that chicken. I'm gonna turn that heat up just a bit because we wanna get this to a point where it's simmering. I'm gonna add in our bouillon cubes. I'm going to use 3 bouillon cubes. And then I'm going to add in our 3 bay leaves. It's up to heat. We've got our chicken in here. Put it on stir, just enough to get some beautiful shredded chicken breast. And we cooked this just enough. This is still pretty moist, so that's nice. There you go. Now you have a huge bowl of shredded chicken. Okay, so this is definitely getting hot enough. We're gonna turn this down. I'm going to add in our shredded chicken. And then we're gonna add in fennel frond, fresh dill. I'm gonna drop those in. We're squeezing in the rest of that lemon juice to keep with the brightness and acidity. Yep. With that extra half of the lemon. That is perfect. Here is our soup.